Alright guys, I gotta apologize for the rough sounding voice. This is video 4 tonight, and I am still dealing with a head cold, so just bear with me. So this whole Lollipop Chainsaw RePOP situation, not something that I was gonna cover because I never played the original game. I didn't really have any interest in playing the remake, the remaster, if you will, whatever you want to call it. But I do think it's a very interesting situation given the implications of censorship and alleged non-compliance to review it by certain outlets, we should say. So Veridark, back on the 11th, when the game was coming out, said that either the critics are refusing to review Lollipop Chainsaw RePOP or they weren't given codes weeks in advance. A W is still a W. Because you could see here on Metacritic that the Metacritic score for critics on September 12th was still yet to be determined. So again, this was a situation where it's like clearly nobody's reviewing it yet. Now, you can see right now that there's the Metacritic score is currently sitting at 70 for this game based on 64 critic reviews. Ironically, one of those reviews is not from Kotaku. Kotaku, who famously, when they put out their article about the remaster, called it a janky mess and said that they weren't going to give it a score. They weren't going to review it, but you could just, default to their previous review that they wrote last year or whatever. So essentially, it's just them saying, yeah, we don't even want to give this game the time of day. Now, again, I've seen a lot of people argue about whether or not the review of itself here, this article on the game is fair or not based on certain issues. I haven't played the game. So again, it's Kotaku. I will always assume the worst. However, given the fact that I have not personally played it, I don't know how big of a janky mess it is. I am seeing people like this, Ryan actually on Twitter, with some nice positive things to say and some obvious critiques of the game. Such things as, it's nice to delve back into the game. It's just a shame that Lollipop Chainsaw RePOP feels like a slight graphical upgrade and that's it. The only difference is you have the RePOP mode, which basically just makes all the gore and blood into sparkles and shiny things. It still retains a lot of the jank that was on the 360 and PS3 version, but it seems more noticeable on this one. A remastered version similar in style to the upcoming Dead Rising Deluxe remaster is what this game was needing, or that remake that was canned in favor of the title. Now, don't get me wrong, it's still a fun and crazy game. Combat's mental, but sluggish at times, and the camera can get a bit infuriating. But there's still a lot of reminiscing and good times to be had chopping up the undead with Juliet and her severed head of a boyfriend. So, again, I think that sounds like a fair assessment of the game. Regardless, it still did decent on Steam. It still has more people playing it than Concord had the last 2 weeks of that game's life. So again, these are not groundbreaking, like record-breaking numbers. But this game was not designed for a large audience, and you can bet they did not spend $150 million and 8 years of development on this remaster. Let's be fair. This probably didn't cost them that much, if we're being that honest about it. So, then of course you see this Yoshimi Yasuda, who is the director of the game, who is very proud of the fact that they were able to get this game out due to the fact that the game was, sitting dormant and dead due to licensing issues with some of the music. And I know that they've had to change some of the music in the game because they no longer have copyrights to it. But unfortunately, this has led to a lot of discussions about censorship. And part of it being some of the Twitter users, I don't know, some of you guys watching this probably follow them. I know Learning the Law on Twitter is a big account. But sometimes these claims don't exactly stack up with reality. So from Bounding into Comics here, we have this article that says, Lollipop Chainsaw RePOP director debunks accusations of censorship, says change of game engines caused reduction in jiggle physics. And this is from September 14th, and it says, despite an accusation to the contrary, Lollipop Chainsaw RePOP director Yoshimi Yasuda has assured players that the recently released remake is 100% uncensored. The claim that Yasuda and the devs at Dragami Games had gone back on their promises that the game would be unaltered was first raised by Twitter user Manga Lawyer, who on September 11th alleged the protagonist Juliet's original generous jiggle physics were missing from RePOP. The jiggle physics only work during combat and running in the new uncensored version, he told his followers. It's unclear if the developers deem them unrealistic or inappropriate. Other scenes have slight changes. Now look, I have no shade to throw at Learning the Law. I think he posts a lot of interesting stuff. But I have noticed over time there are some of these things that are either exaggerated or just false that he posts. And he even blocked me at one point because I called him out for one of these things, and then he unblocked me because clearly he realized maybe he was overreacting. I don't know. But we all get things wrong on Twitter. I'm not going to fault the guy for that. But clearly this is a situation where he wants to point out that there was censorship when there really wasn't. So he said the original standing pose physics in Lollipop Chainsaw is missing in RePOP. Here's the PS3 version. They only work during combat and running in the new uncensored version. It's unclear if the devs deemed them unrealistic or inappropriate. Other scenes have slight changes. In a follow-up tweet, Mangalore shared a full comparison of Lollipop Chainsaw RePOP censorship versus the original, which notably does in fact show that Juliet's chest in RePOP is less bouncy than before, albeit only slightly. So again, I mean, maybe we're splitting hairs, making a mountain out of a molehill, but again, I do not think that any censorship really should be a thing if we're going to say something is staying true to the original. If you call something uncensored, there should be no censorship of it whatsoever. There should be no alterations to make modern audiences less freaked out. You should honestly be willing to say, we're going to remaster this in the original version, stay true to the original, and not try to appease the woke wankers that are out there. So Yoshimi Yasuda responded and said, we've received feedback from players that pricing in different regions of the world have not been thoroughly researched. We agree with the players and will adjust the prices as soon as possible. Next, we received some bug reports and are currently working on fixing them. We will not only fix the bugs, but also consider option settings and optimizations. Regarding the physics engine, we're using kawaii physics, yada yada yada. Finally, I'm disappointed that some influencers and journalists are spreading false news, such as the suggestion that I proposed RePOP mode as a censored mode and negotiated to make the original mode uncensored. The fact is we have obtained ESRB approval for the game specifications you're playing now, applied to the platformer, and obtained release approval without receiving any correction instructions from all the platformers. This is the same as what I told you before, and I honestly shared this fact with the game users. If someone's trying to twist the story about the uncensored version of Lollipop Chainsaw RePOP to suit their own purposes, I will protest. And good for him that he's actually speaking up, because again, I think it's important for these devs, these directors, to actually have a healthy dialogue with people, to be aware of what's being said, and be able to address it directly if wrongful information is being spread. So good on him for actually saying it. Now today we have an update where he actually says, I'll report on our bug fixing efforts. First, the adjustments to bring the behavior of the kawaii physics we used in UE5 closer to the original version will be completed. And this is just more about graphical stuff, which I know some people had issues with. But in general, this is, I know, what people are more concerned with. Rightfully so, I guess. He says, I'd like to add a little more. The physics engine has been optimized to make Juliet's breast shake and other parts of her body look just like the original version. So once again, base director, base dev comes through, and DOA Momiji pointed out on Twitter, she's like, I'm not finding one anti-censorship or anti-woke account covering that the devs are fixing the Lollipop Chainsaw Jiggle physics. It's like they love crying censorship before doing any research. Be careful when listening to whatever side you agree with, they can be wrong. And this is what I'm saying. It's like, I don't have any issue with people being wrong and having to correct their statement, and it's fine. And look, maybe to some extent he's right in the fact that there was some jiggle physics that got lost in the translation. But this was not an intentional decision. This was something that happened when they were switching engines, and clearly the director heard the issues, and he's like, hey, we're fixing it. We're working on bugs. Give us some time. And sure enough, it sounds like he's done right by his fan base, done right by the gamers who are playing this game. And he's willing to make the changes when necessary to fix the problem. So again, this is one of these happy stories where you like to see that there's a developer, a director of a game who is more than willing to engage in discourse with his audience. And so kudos to this guy. I mean, I'm not going to buy the game because I flat out have no interest in it. It's not the kind of game it just doesn't look like something I want to play, to be honest. I'd much rather wait for Stellar Blade to come to PC or buy something else, you know? Anyways, guys, let me know what you think about all this, and I will catch you on the next one. Alright, and if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you for being here. I do have two channels, Minimal Effort Podcast, as well as my gaming channel. I do have a Twitch and Kick for my gaming channel. We do live streams over there occasionally, maybe once a week. And then if you are in the market for a new PC, make sure to check out Meta PCs. Click the link I have down below. Use code TBO at checkout for a special discount. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time.